The moment of truth arrived exactly 48 hours later. Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the hidden battleship Soul's Pride. Around him, officers prepared for the most important battle in human history. Through the viewing screen, he could see the Council's massive fleet still orbiting Earth in their predictable formations. "All strike teams report ready," announced Captain Nam Da-yoon from her electronic warfare station. Her specialty was cyber attacks, and she had spent months learning how to hack alien computer systems. Today, her skills would determine whether humanity lived or died. Phase 1 begins now, Lee ordered. Across 15 star systems, the impossible began to happen. Ships that the Council thought didn't exist suddenly appeared from behind asteroids, moons, and empty space. Earth's secret fleet decloaked simultaneously around the Nexus, catching the massive space station completely off guard. Admiral Ko Woo-jin's voice crackled over the communication system from his position near the Nexus. "Target acquired. Beginning attack run on the station's main weapons array." The aliens were completely shocked. Their rigid communication protocols had no procedures for dealing with surprise attacks. Captain Nam's cyber warfare teams had already begun flooding their networks with viruses and false information, causing chaos throughout the Council fleet. "Their command structure is falling apart," Nam reported with excitement. "They're used to fighting enemies who attack in straight lines and follow predictable patterns. Our multi-dimensional assault has confused all their automated systems." Colonel Park Jong-soo's voice came through from his marine assault ship. "Boarding teams ready. We're approaching 3 Council vessels now." Lee watched through the battle cameras as Park's Marines used tactics that no alien species had ever seen before. Instead of direct frontal assaults, they attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Human soldiers rappelled between ships in spacesuits, cut through hulls with plasma torches, and fought inside enemy vessels using techniques developed from centuries of human warfare. The aliens had never encountered anything like it. Their security systems were designed to stop large groups attacking through main entrances, not small teams cutting through walls and ceilings. Within minutes, Park's Marines had captured 3 Council warships without destroying them. "Enemy vessels secured," Park reported. "You were right about their psychology, Captain. They don't know how to adapt when their original plan fails." Meanwhile, Admiral Ko's fleet was tearing apart the Nexus's defenses. The massive space station had been built to withstand conventional attacks, but humanity's quantum disruption torpedoes passed through its shields like they weren't there. The reality phase shifters made the station's targeting computers useless, causing its automated weapons to fire at empty space. "The Nexus is trying to charge its superweapon," Ko reported, "but our electronic warfare is disrupting their power systems." Captain Nam's fingers flew across her control panel as she coordinated cyber attacks against dozens of Council ships simultaneously. "Their entire fleet is running on the same operating system," she said with disbelief. "It's like they never considered that someone might hack them. I'm shutting down their engines, weapons, and life support systems one ship at a time." The battle was going better than anyone had dared to hope. Council ships that had seemed invincible were drifting helplessly in space as their systems failed. The Nexus, which was supposed to be impregnable, was being torn apart by weapons the Council had never imagined existed. But the real shock came when the enslaved species began their coordinated rebellion. 18 different alien races simultaneously rose up against their Council oppressors across the galaxy. Ships that the Council thought belonged to them suddenly turned their weapons against Council forces. "This is incredible," Dr. Park's voice came through from her monitoring station. "The Karani have destroyed 3 Council supply bases. The Vel survivors just captured an entire Council fleet. The Zorvak are broadcasting our battle footage throughout the galaxy, showing everyone that the Council can be defeated." Lee felt a surge of pride as he watched human tactics revolutionize galactic warfare. For centuries, the Council had fought the same way: massive ships in rigid formations, overwhelming firepower, and predictable strategies. They had never faced an enemy that could think creatively under pressure. "Captain," Admiral Ko called from near the Nexus, "we've broken through their outer defenses, but there's something you need to see." The main screen switched to Ko's battle cameras showing the interior of the Nexus. What they found inside was horrifying. Thousands of alien beings from dozens of different species were imprisoned in research chambers. The Council hadn't just been conquering other races, they had been experimenting on them. "We found the missing Karani population," Ko reported grimly. and survivors from at least 20 species the Council claimed to have completely destroyed. They've been using them for medical experiments. Lee's anger burned white-hot. The Council hadn't just been conquerors. They had been torturers and slavers on a scale that was hard to imagine. Free all the prisoners, he ordered, and destroy every research facility on that station. Colonel Park's Marines were now boarding the Nexus itself, fighting through corridors that had never seen combat before. The station's security forces had been designed to control prisoners, not fight against trained soldiers. Park's teams moved through the massive structure like ghosts, striking targets and disappearing before the aliens could respond. "We've reached the command center," Park reported. "The Council commanders are trying to surrender." "No surrender," Lee replied firmly. "They need to face justice for what they've done to innocent species." Captain An's fighter squadron was meanwhile wreaking havoc among the Council fleet around Earth. Her small, fast ships danced between the massive alien vessels, striking vital systems and disappearing before return fire could reach them. The aliens' huge ships couldn't track targets that moved so unpredictably. "Their fleet commanders are in complete panic," An reported with satisfaction. "They keep trying to contact the Nexus for orders, but we've cut their communications. They don't know how to fight without someone telling them exactly what to do." The battle was turning into a rout. Council ships throughout the galaxy were surrendering, or being destroyed by forces they hadn't known existed. The mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled for over 1,000 years, was falling apart in a single day. Captain Nam looked up from her stations with amazement. "Captain, we're receiving surrender requests from over 200 Council vessels. Their entire command structure has collapsed." "What about their homeworlds?" Lee asked. "Intelligence reports massive civil unrest on every Council planet," Nam replied. "The enslaved populations are rebelling, and the Council military can't respond because we've destroyed their coordination abilities." Admiral Koh's voice crackled over the communication system. "The Nexus is secured. We've freed over 50,000 prisoners and captured the entire Council High Command. Captain, you need to see what we found in their research files." The main screen displayed documents that made Lee's blood run cold. The Council had been planning to conquer Earth for decades. They had detailed studies of human biology, psychology, and military capabilities. But most shocking of all were the files labeled Creativity Extraction Project. They really were planning to harvest human brains. Dr. Bayek's voice came through the communication system. "These documents show they believed human creativity could be transferred to their own species through surgical procedures." Lee looked around his bridge at the human officers who had just achieved the impossible. In less than 6 hours, humanity had gone from facing extinction to liberating the entire galaxy. The Council's 1,000-year reign of terror was over. "Send a message to every species in the galaxy," Lee ordered. "Tell them the Galactic Council has fallen, and that all enslaved populations are now free. The age of human independence isn't just beginning. We're starting an age of freedom for everyone." Captain An Yu-jin adjusted her flight helmet as she prepared for the most dangerous mission of her life. At 26, she was already considered the best starfighter pilot in Earth's secret fleet. Her small ship, no bigger than an old Earth fighter jet, was equipped with technology that shouldn't have existed according to Council records. "Remember, stay invisible and gather as much information as possible," Captain Lee Dae-ho told her through the communication system. "We need to know exactly what we're facing." An's ship slipped out of the hidden base and into the darkness of space. Her advanced stealth system made her vessel appear to be nothing more than a piece of space debris. She had practiced these reconnaissance missions hundreds of times, but never with stakes this high. 2 days had passed since Dr. Park's shocking revelations about the Council's true nature. Now, Director Lim Sung-woo had called an emergency meeting in the deepest part of the underground facility. As head of Earth intelligence, Lim had access to information that even Captain Lee didn't know about. "The situation is worse than we thought," Lim announced to the gathered officers. His weathered face looked grim as he activated a holographic display. "We've confirmed that the Galactic Council has destroyed 47 species over the past millennium. But that's not the worst part. The hologram showed a massive space station orbiting a distant star. It was larger than Earth's moon and bristled with weapons that could destroy entire planets. This is called the Nexus," Lim continued. "It's the Council's military command center. Every major decision about galactic warfare comes from here. If we can destroy this station, We can cripple their ability to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems. Dr. Baek Yoon-soo, Earth's most brilliant quantum physicist, stepped forward. She was young, only 31, but her research had led to several breakthrough technologies that gave humanity its edge over alien science. I've been studying the Council's technology, Beck said. They rely heavily on something called reality phase computing. It's incredibly advanced, but it has a weakness. They've never encountered our reality phase shifters. Explain that in simple terms, Lee requested. Think of it like this, Beck replied. They build their technology to work in one specific way. Our reality phase shifters can change the basic rules of physics in a small area. Their equipment simply stops working when exposed to our technology. Meanwhile, Captain An was approaching the outer edge of the Council's main fleet. Her sensors showed over 300 alien warships arranged in perfect formation around Earth. Each ship was massive, designed to intimidate and overpower any enemy through sheer size. But An noticed something interesting as she flew between the ships. They were positioned exactly the same way in every formation. Their patrol routes followed identical patterns. Everything was precise, orderly, and completely predictable. They fight like machines, she whispered into her communicator. No creativity, no adaptation. Just following the same patterns over and over. Back at the underground base, Director Lim was revealing the most shocking intelligence yet. We've made contact with representatives from 18 different enslaved species. They're all willing to rebel if we can prove that the Council can be defeated. The room buzzed with excitement. This wasn't just about Earth anymore. Humanity had the chance to liberate dozens of oppressed civilizations. What kind of help can they provide? Commander Kim Tae-woo asked. More than you might expect, Lim replied. The Karani have been secretly building weapons in their slave factories. The Vel survivors have been hiding in asteroid fields, waiting for someone to lead a rebellion. The Zorvak have infiltrated Council communication networks. Together we have allies throughout the galaxy. Dr. Beck activated another holographic display, this one showing technical specifications for Council military systems. I've been analyzing their weaknesses. Their ships are heavily armored but slow to maneuver. Their weapons are powerful but take a long time to charge between shots. Most importantly, they rely on automated systems that can't adapt to unexpected situations. How do we use that against them? Lee asked. Human tactics, Beck replied with a smile. We fight in ways they've never seen before. We use speed instead of size, adaptation instead of rigid planning, creativity instead of automated responses. Captain An's voice crackled over the communication system. I'm approaching the Nexus now. You need to see this. The image from her ship's cameras appeared on the main screen. The Nexus was even more massive than the earlier hologram had suggested. Its surface was covered with docking bays that could hold thousands of ships. Weapon platforms extended from every section, each one capable of destroying a small planet. How many ships does it have? Lee asked. I count at least 2,000 docked vessels, An replied. But here's the interesting part. They're all the same design. No variation, no specialized craft. It's like they built everything from the same blueprint. That's because they did. Dr. Park's voice came through the communication system from her research station. I've been studying Council psychology for years. They don't believe in innovation or creativity. They think the perfect design should never be changed. Director Lim pulled up another display showing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. This is our advantage. While they've been using the same technology for centuries, we've been constantly improving and adapting. Our newest ships are smaller but more advanced than anything they have. What about their numbers? Admiral Seo asked. Even with our advantages, they still have hundreds of times more ships than we do. Numbers don't matter if those ships can't hit us, Dr. Bayek replied. Our reality phase shifters will make their targeting systems useless. Our stealth technology will make us invisible to their sensors, and our quantum disruption weapons will go right through their shields. Captain An continued her surveillance, moving closer to the Nexus. I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the station's core. It looks like they're charging some kind of superweapon. The mood in the command center became tense. How powerful? Lee asked. Powerful enough to destroy an entire solar system, An replied grimly. And it's aimed at Earth. Director Lim's expression darkened. They're not planning to wait for the 30-day deadline. They're going to attack within days. Then we attack first, Lee decided. How quickly can we mobilize our forces? All ships can be ready in 48 hours. Admiral Seo reported. Our allied species are also preparing for simultaneous rebellions across 12 star systems. Dr. Beck looked worried. Captain, there's something else. My analysis of the Nexus shows that it's not just a military command center. It's also a research facility, where they study the species they've conquered. If we're right about them wanting to harvest human creativity, that station is where they would take us. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The Nexus wasn't just a weapon pointed at Earth. It was a laboratory designed to dissect human minds. All the more reason to destroy it, Commander Kim said firmly. How do we get past their defenses? The same way we've been hiding from them for years, Lee replied. We use their own assumptions against them. They think humans are primitive and predictable. We'll show them what creativity really means. Captain An's voice came through the speakers again. I've completed my reconnaissance. I'm heading home now. But Captain, you should know. They have ships moving toward every human colony. This isn't just about Earth anymore. They're planning to attack all of our settlements simultaneously. Lee felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Humanity's entire future depended on the next few days. But as he looked around the room at his officers and scientists, he felt confident. The aliens had made one fatal mistake. They had underestimated what humans could do when their survival was at stake. Send word to all our hidden fleets, Lee ordered. In 48 hours, we're going to teach the Galactic Council what happens when you threaten humanity. And we're going to free every enslaved species in the galaxy while we're at it. 3 days after the Council's ultimatum, Captain Lee Dae-ho stood in a secret underground facility beneath the mountains of South Korea. The base was so well hidden that even most of Earth's government didn't know it existed. Advanced holographic projectors made it invisible from space, and the entire complex was built inside natural rock formations. Project Silent Thunder is fully operational, reported Lieutenant Colonel Jang Hyejin as she approached Lee's position. She was young but had already proven herself as Earth's best intelligence officer. Her specialty was psychological warfare, making enemies believe what she wanted them to believe. Lee nodded as he looked at the massive underground hangar. Dozens of ships filled the space, but these weren't the simple patrol craft the aliens expected humans to have. These vessels had been built in secret over the past 20 years, using technology that Earth had quietly developed while pretending to follow Council restrictions. Show me the deception operation, Lee said to Jang. She led him to a control room where screens showed news broadcasts from around the galaxy. On every channel, the same story was playing. Earth's government was falling apart. Protests filled the streets of major cities. Military officers were reportedly arguing with politicians about whether to surrender to the Council. The aliens are eating it up, Jang said with a small smile. Their intelligence reports show that humans are divided and panicking. They think we're too busy fighting each other to organize any real resistance. But Lee knew the truth. The protests were fake, filled with actors and volunteers. The military arguments were staged performances. The real Earth military was quietly moving into position for the fight of their lives. Engineer Cho Min-ho walked over carrying a data pad. His hands were stained with machine oil and his clothes looked like he hadn't slept in days. Captain, the new weapons are ready for testing. Would you like to see them? Lee followed Cho to another section of the base where scientists and engineers worked frantically on devices that looked nothing like standard human technology. These machines had been reverse-engineered from alien equipment that Earth had secretly captured over the years. This is our quantum disruption torpedo, Cho explained, pointing to a sleek, silver weapon. It can pass through alien shields like they don't exist. And this, he gestured to a larger device, is a ship cloaking system that makes our vessels appear to be asteroids or space junk on their sensors. How many ships can we equip? Lee asked. We have enough equipment for 200 combat vessels, Cho replied. Not as many as the Council fleet, but our ships are faster and more flexible than theirs. Admiral Seo Jun-ki entered the weapons bay, looking tired but determined. He had been coordinating the secret placement of Earth's true military forces. Captain, our fleets are in position. We have ships hidden in asteroid belts behind moons, and in empty space throughout 12 solar systems. The aliens have no idea we're there. Lee felt a spark of hope. Maybe humanity actually had a chance in this fight. Dr. Park So-min appeared on a communication screen from her research facility on Mars. Captain, I have disturbing news. I've been studying council records that were leaked by sympathetic aliens. Earth is not the first species they've done this to. The room went quiet. Everyone stopped their work to listen. Over the past 1,000 years, the Council has destroyed 47 different species, Park continued. Each time they claimed the species was too aggressive or dangerous to galactic peace. But the real reason was always the same. These species were developing technology or showing abilities that threatened Council dominance. What happened to them? Lee asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Complete extinction, Park replied grimly. The Council would surround their homeworlds, demand surrender, and then eliminate them entirely when they refused. They've been using the same pattern for centuries. Lieutenant Colonel Zhang leaned forward. So this was always planned. They never intended to let us survive as an independent species. There's more, Park said. I found records showing that the Council has been studying human brains. They're particularly interested in what they call our creativity enzymes, the chemicals that make humans so good at adapting and thinking of new solutions to problems. Engineer Cho looked disgusted. They want to harvest our brains? Essentially, yes. They think human creativity can be extracted and used to enhance their own species. We're not just being conquered, we're being farmed. The room erupted in angry voices, but Lee raised his hand for silence. This changes nothing about our plans, he said firmly. If anything, it proves we're right to fight back. How many other species are currently under Council control? At least 30, Park answered. Most of them are treated as slave races, forced to work in mines, factories, or research facilities. A few, like the Karani and the Vel, have been completely wiped out in the past 50 years. Admiral Seo stepped forward. Captain, we've made contact with some of the enslaved species. They're willing to help if we can prove that resistance is possible. Lee felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just about Earth anymore. Humanity had become the hope for dozens of oppressed civilizations throughout the galaxy. What's the status of our fake compliance? He asked Zhang. Perfect, she replied. On the surface, Earth appears to be slowly preparing for surrender. We've staged several public meetings where government officials argue about the best way to comply with Council demands. Our official military forces are being moved to designated surrender points. And the real military? Completely hidden. The aliens think our defense consists of maybe 50 outdated ships and a few thousand ground troops. They have no idea we've been building a secret fleet for 20 years. Engineer Cho grinned. They also don't know about our technological advances. While they've been treating us like primitive children, we've been reverse engineering their equipment and improving it. In some areas, our technology is now better than theirs. Lee walked to a large window that showed the hidden fleet. Sleek black ships filled the underground hangar, each one capable of destroying vessels 3 times its size. These weren't the clumsy, bulky ships that humans had used 50 years ago. These were precision weapons designed for speed, stealth, and devastating firepower. How much time do we have? Lee asked. 26 days until their deadline, Admiral Seo replied. But I don't think they'll wait that long. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to attack early, probably within 2 weeks. Then we need to be ready in 10 days, Lee decided. Can our people handle that timeline? They'll have to, Cho said grimly. The alternative is extinction. Dr. Park's voice came through the communication system again. Captain, there's one more thing. I've been studying Council military tactics from their previous conquests. They rely entirely on overwhelming force and intimidation. They've never faced an enemy that fought back intelligently. What does that mean for us? Lee asked. It means they're not used to adapting during combat. Their battle plans are rigid and predictable. If we can surprise them and force them to change tactics, they'll be confused and disorganized. Lee smiled for the first time in days. Then let's give them the biggest surprise in galactic history. As he looked around the room at his officers and scientists, Lee felt proud of what humanity had accomplished in secret. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive, frightened species. They had no idea they were about to face the most dangerous enemy they'd ever encountered, humans with nothing left to lose. Captain Lee Daeho stood at the window of Earth's orbital command station, watching ships from 12 different alien species arrive in formation. Their massive vessels blocked out the stars, casting dark shadows over the blue planet below. Each ship was 3 times larger than Earth's biggest warship. The sight made his stomach tight with worry. Sir, they're requesting permission to dock, said his communications officer. The young woman's voice shook slightly as she spoke. Lee nodded slowly. Grant them permission, but keep our shields at maximum power. For 50 years, Earth had been part of the Galactic Council. Humans were told they were lucky to be accepted. The 12 alien species that controlled the galaxy had allowed Earth to join as a junior member. This meant humans could trade with other worlds and learn alien technology, but they had no real voice in important decisions. Lee had always hated the arrangement. Humans were treated like children who needed constant supervision. Every time Earth wanted to expand to a new solar system, they had to ask permission. Every new weapon design had to be approved. Every scientific breakthrough had to be shared with the Council first. The massive alien ships finished docking. Soon, representatives from each species would gather in the main conference room. Lee had been ordered to attend this emergency meeting, but no one had told him what it was about. Dr. Park So-min entered his office, carrying a data pad filled with information about each alien species. She was Earth's top expert on alien behavior and psychology. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and worry lines creased her forehead. "I've been studying their communication patterns," she said. "Something big is happening. They've been talking in encrypted channels for weeks." "Any idea what they want?" Lee asked. Park shook her head. "Nothing good. The way they're positioning their ship suggests they're ready for a fight. But against who?" Before Lee could answer, Commander Kim Tae-woo burst through the door. His cybernetic arm gleamed silver under the office lights. He had lost his real arm in a border skirmish 5 years ago and replaced it with alien technology that made him faster and stronger than any normal human. "Sir, we have a problem," Kim said. "Intelligence reports that similar fleets have appeared at every major human colony. Mars Europa Station, New Sol Colony, they're all surrounded." Lee felt cold fear creep up his spine. This was not a normal diplomatic visit. This looked like the beginning of an invasion. "Get me Ambassador Yoon on the comm," Lee ordered. Ambassador Yoon Mi-young appeared on the main screen a few minutes later. She was calling from the Council's homeworld, where she served as Earth's diplomatic representative. Her usually calm face looked stressed and tired. "Captain Lee," she said, "I've been trying to warn Earth for days, but they've been jamming my communications. The Council has called an emergency session. They're going to make demands of Earth." "What kind of demands?" Lee asked. "The worst kind," Yoon replied. "They want us to give up our military, surrender 70% of our resources, and accept what they call protective custody status." Dr. Park gasped. "That would make us slaves." "Exactly," Yoon continued. "They claim humans are too aggressive and pose a threat to galactic peace. They say our military expansion and colonization efforts prove we're dangerous." Lee laughed bitterly. "Dangerous? We haven't fought a real war in decades. We've followed every council rule and regulation." "That doesn't matter to them," Yoon said. "I think this has been planned for a long time. They're just looking for an excuse." The door to Lee's office opened again. A tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms walked in, flanked by 2 heavily armed guards. This was Counselor Vex, the Council's representative to Earth. His species, the Altari, considered themselves the most civilized in the galaxy. "Captain Lee," Vex said in his mechanical-sounding voice, "you are required to attend the council meeting immediately." Lee stood up slowly. He was not used to being ordered around on his own station. "Very well. But my staff comes with me." "Only you," Vex replied. "This is a matter of galactic security." "Then I'm not going," Lee said firmly. Vex's 4 eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand the situation, human. This is not a request. It is a command." The alien guards stepped forward, raising their energy weapons. Lee noticed that Dr. Park had quietly moved to the emergency alarm button, while Commander Kim had shifted into a fighting stance. "Fine," Lee said, raising his hands. "I'll come. But remember, Counselor, threatening the commanding officer of Earth's defense forces is an act of war." "There will be no war," Vex replied confidently. "Your species lacks the ability to resist the Council's will." As they walked through the corridors toward the conference room, Lee's mind raced. He activated a small communication device hidden in his uniform. It would send a coded message to certain people on Earth, people who had been preparing for this day for years. The conference room was filled with representatives from all 12 council species. Each one looked different. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked almost like giant insects. But they all had the same expression on their faces: cold superiority. The head of the council, a creature that looked like a cross between an octopus and a tree, began to speak. Human representative Earth has violated numerous galactic laws. Your species has expanded too rapidly, developed weapons without permission, and shown aggressive tendencies that threaten peace. Lee wanted to argue, but he stayed quiet. He needed to hear everything they planned to do. Therefore, the creature continued, the Galactic Council has decided that Earth must be placed under protective custody. You will surrender your military forces, turn over 70% of your resources to Council management, and accept permanent supervision. And if we refuse? Lee asked. Refusal is not an option, replied a spider-like alien with 8 legs. Your primitive technology cannot resist our combined fleets. We are giving you 30 standard days to comply. After that, we will take corrective measures. Lee felt anger burning in his chest, but he kept his expression calm. I will need to discuss this with Earth's government. Discussion is pointless, the octopus tree said. Inform your leaders that compliance is mandatory. The age of human independence is over. As the meeting ended and Lee was escorted back to his quarters, he thought about the coded message he had sent. All across Earth and its colonies, certain people would be receiving orders to begin preparing for war. The aliens thought humans were weak and primitive. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 months after the fall of the Galactic Council, Captain Lee Day-ho stood in what had once been the Nexus's main command chamber. The massive space station had been converted into a courthouse where the former council members were being tried for their crimes against countless species. The transformation was remarkable. Where once alien prisoners had been held in research chambers, now representatives from over 60 different species worked together to build a new galactic government. The dark corridors that had echoed with screams now buzzed with the sounds of cooperation and hope. The evidence is overwhelming, announced Ambassador Yoon Mi-young, who now served as the chief prosecutor in the trials. She had spent weeks documenting the Council's crimes, and the list was staggering. 47 species completely destroyed. Hundreds of millions of beings enslaved. The entire star system stripped of resources. The former council members sat in specially designed holding cells, no longer the mighty rulers they had once been. Their perfect formations and rigid hierarchies had crumbled the moment they faced real opposition. Most of them looked confused and lost, unable to understand how their 1,000-year empire had fallen in a single day. Dr. Park So-min presented her research findings to the court. The Council's own records show they had been planning similar attacks on 38 additional species. Earth was just the first target in what they called the final cleansing, a plan to eliminate all potential threats to their dominance, Captain. Lee listened to the testimony with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Justice was being served, but it could never bring back the billions of beings who had died under Council rule. What will happen to them? Asked Captain An Yu-jin, who had been promoted to Admiral after her heroic actions during the war. Exile, replied Ambassador Yoon. The new Galactic Alliance has voted to banish all former council members to a remote star system where they can live out their remaining years under careful supervision. They'll never again have the power to harm innocent species. The trials had been broadcasting across the galaxy for weeks, and the response had been incredible. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were finally hearing the truth about their oppressors. The evidence was so overwhelming that even the Council's former supporters had to admit their guilt. Director Lim Sung-woo approached with a datapad containing the latest intelligence reports. Captain, the last of the Council's hidden weapons caches has been found and destroyed. The galaxy is finally safe from their influence. What about the species we freed? Lee asked. They're doing better than we hoped, Lim replied with a smile. The Karani have already begun rebuilding their homeworld. The Vel have established 3 new colonies. Most of the formerly enslaved races are recovering quickly now that they're free. The creation of the new Galactic Alliance had been surprisingly smooth. Unlike the old Council, which had been based on dominance and fear, the alliance was built on principles of equality and mutual respect. Every species, no matter how small or technologically advanced, had an equal voice in galactic affairs. The best part, said Dr. Baek Yoon-soo as she joined the group, is how much we're learning from each other. Now that species are free to share their knowledge openly, we're making scientific advances at an incredible rate. It was true. The former council had suppressed innovation and creativity, keeping the enslaved species from developing new technologies. Now, with that barrier removed, The galaxy was experiencing a renaissance of discovery and invention. Engineer Cho Min-ho had been working with scientists from a dozen different species to develop new technologies that benefited everyone. The Zorvak taught us how to build faster-than-light communications that work across the entire galaxy, he reported excitedly. The Karani showed us how to create self-repairing spacecraft. The Vel have shared their knowledge of sustainable energy systems. But the most important change was philosophical. The old council had ruled through intimidation and the threat of extinction. The new alliance was based on the simple idea that diversity made the galaxy stronger, not weaker. Every species brings something unique to our alliance, Ambassador Yoon explained to a gathering of galactic representatives. The humans brought creativity and adaptability. The Karani bring artistic vision. The Vel contribute scientific precision. The Zorvak offer diplomatic wisdom. Together, we're stronger than any of us could be alone. Captain Lee had been offered the position of Supreme Military Commander of the Alliance, but he had turned it down. I didn't fight to become a ruler, he had told the Alliance Council. I fought to ensure that no species would ever again face the threat of extinction for being different. Instead, military command was shared among representatives from multiple species, with humans serving as advisors and trainers. The Alliance military was organized around the principle that had won the war against the Council: flexibility, creativity, and the ability to adapt to unexpected situations. Colonel Park Jong-soo had established training centers throughout the galaxy where species could learn human military tactics. But more importantly, they were learning to think creatively about problem-solving. The rigid, predictable strategies that had made the Council vulnerable were being replaced with innovative approaches that drew from the strengths of every species. The most interesting development, reported Dr. Park from her new research center, is how different species are combining their technologies. We're seeing innovations that no single race could have developed on their own. Captain Nam Da-un had founded the Alliance Intelligence Service, which focused on preventing future conflicts through early detection and diplomatic intervention. Our job isn't to spy on potential enemies, she explained. It's to identify problems before they become wars and help species resolve their differences peacefully. The former council territories had been redistributed to the species that had originally inhabited them. Worlds that had been strip-mined for resources were being restored using advanced ecological techniques. The massive slave factories were being converted into educational centers and hospitals. But perhaps the most important change was the establishment of the Never Again Protocol. This alliance law guaranteed that no species could ever be threatened with extinction for its beliefs, technology, or way of life. Any attempt to destroy or enslave another species would trigger an immediate response from the entire Alliance military. It's working better than we ever hoped, Admiral Seo Junki reported during a strategy meeting. We've had 3 potential conflicts arise in the past month, and all of them were resolved through negotiation and compromise. The old council would have solved them through conquest and destruction. Lee stood at the great window of the converted nexus, looking out at a site that would have been impossible under council rule. Ships from dozens of different species worked together in the space around the station. There were no rigid formations, no displays of dominance, just beings from across the galaxy cooperating to build something better. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had surrendered? Asked Commander Kim Tae-woo, his cybernetic arm gleaming in the starlight. Lee considered the question carefully. We would all be dead, he replied simply, and the galaxy would still be living under tyranny. Sometimes the only choice is to fight, even when the odds seem impossible. The council made one fatal mistake, observed Captain An as she joined them at the window. They assumed that might made right. They never understood that true strength comes from protecting others, not conquering them. As the trials of the former council members concluded, Lee reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had gone from being considered a primitive junior species to being respected as the catalyst that freed the galaxy from 1,000 years of oppression. But more importantly, every species in the galaxy was now free to develop according to its own nature and values. The creativity and diversity that the council had tried to suppress was now flourishing throughout the stars. The best part, Lee said to his assembled officers, is that we didn't replace one empire with another. We created something completely new, a galaxy where every species can thrive. The last of the former council members was led away to exile, ending an era of galactic history. In their place rose the new galactic alliance built not on fear and domination, but on the simple principle that diversity and freedom made everyone stronger. As Lee prepared to return to Earth, he knew that humanity had found its true place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as protectors of the freedom that allowed all species to reach their full potential. The galaxy was finally free, and it would stay that way as long as there were those willing to fight for the rights of others.